Nowadays, when we buy a new tech product, we can often expect to see it come in with some kind of charging case. The most notable one is obviously our Airpods, or earphones in general, now that they're fully wireless. But within the last few years, DJI really did make this sort of like a standard. Their drones, their action cameras, their microphones all come with a dedicated charging case that houses 2 or 3 batteries on the inside. So this company called Llano has done something very genius, and that is they brought that concept over to the camera battery market. And honestly, this is something that I never thought I really needed, but now that it's here, I really do see it as something that's very valuable. So this is the Llano TurboCell 2-in-1 battery charger for your camera batteries, DSLR or mirrorless cameras. It's a home for your batteries, and as well, it's also a battery charger. So this current one that I have is the LP-E6 version because I primarily shoot Canon, but they also have it for Sony, they have it for Fujifilm, they have it for Nikon, and they're working on getting it supported for Panasonic cameras as well. As a disclaimer, Llano did send this over to me. They didn't pay me, nor did they tell me to say anything in particular. They just said, here, try this out, and if you like it, feel free to make a video. So here we are. Also on another note, if you guys haven't done so yet, or if you guys are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. You know, I'm trying to grow this channel, so if you guys can subscribe, that will help me out a lot. So inside the box, you have the battery charger, of course. You have a USB-C to USB-C cable. You have a nice little pouch. And of course, you also have the manual. The front of the box also has this nice little poster that shows you some birds in flight, feeding off fishes and whatnot. So that's kind of cool. So let's go over a bit of the overview of this device. So it houses a 12,400 milliamp hour battery on the inside. On the top, you have 2 slots for your camera batteries. On the right-hand side, you have 2 USB-C in and out ports. These are for charging the unit and other devices. On the front, you have a button that lights up this beautiful display. So this battery charger advertises having a 12,700 milliamp hour on the inside, but of course we all know that might not be true because all of these battery chargers are never as high as they advertise. It's kind of like buying a flash drive, right? It says 512 gigs, but it's never 512 gigs, right? So same thing for battery chargers, is never as accurate as what they advertise them to be. But the question is, how much juice is actually in this device right here? So the thing is, there's actually tools out there that you can use to accurately measure the milliamp hour on a battery. Unfortunately, I'm not as techy, nor do I have the equipment or know-how to get those accurate measurements. So for my case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use my phone and see how many charge cycles I can get using this device right here. So first off, I don't want to get too hung up on the numbers because in the beginning I was like, oh, so my phone is like 2,000 milliamp hours, and so therefore I'm getting this many charges. And the thing is, I realized that there's so many factors that can skew these numbers wildly. So it's really hard to say. Like for example, my phone is old, right? And so how accurate is the milliamp hour on this phone? I can't really say. And how accurate was it to even begin with, right? Another thing is like temperature, right? You know, temperature really affects the performance of batteries. It's really hard for me to gauge whether or not these numbers are accurate or not. So to note, I'm using an iPhone 13 mini. I know it's an old phone. Don't yell at me in the comments. I'm one of those people that actually enjoy using small form factor phones. Sue me. And the thing is, like, you know, they don't make them like this anymore, and so I am trying to preserve this phone for as long as I can. I'll probably use it until the phone explodes. Okay, so I basically spent an entire weekend using nothing but this device to charge my phone. I did not plug my phone into any wall chargers for the 2-ish days, give or take. I was using this device and this device only, and I was able to get 3 3/4 of a charge using this device to charge up my phone. So let's run through the charges really quickly. So the first time I charged it, this was charged to 100%, and the first time I charged it, my phone was at around 3 to 4%. It wasn't fully dead, it was like around 3 to 4%, give or take, and it took 55 minutes to go from 3 to 4% up to 80% of a charge. And then for the remainder 20%, it was about an hour. So in total, it was about 2 hours to fully charge my phone. So the reason why it took longer for the last 20% is because it needs to preserve the battery life. And so therefore, usually quick charges a little bit faster in the first 80%, and the last 20 is a little bit slower. The indicator on the battery bank dropped from 100% down to 95%. And at that point, I was like super surprised. I was like, oh my God, it only took 5% here to charge up my entire phone. That's incredible, that's magical. But unfortunately, the magic didn't last forever because on the second charge, same thing. So my phone was around 93% more or less, charged to 100% in about 2 hours, and the indicator on the battery bank dropped from 95% down to 65%. And then for the third charge, my phone actually died this time. I plugged it in and it went from 0 to 100 in, again, about 2 hours time, and the indicator on the battery bank dropped from 65% down to 38%. And then for the final charge, I only got about 76% of juice onto my phone before the indicator here dropped to 0 and this device fully died. So yeah, again, 3 3/4 of a charge before this device was completely depleted. So use that as a point of reference. Again, a 2-year-old iPhone 13 mini, your mileage may vary because I'm sure you're using a normal phone with a bigger battery, and so you're probably gonna be getting a little bit less of a charge out of this. But yeah, use that as a point of reference and see whether or not that is enough juice for your use case scenario. So I did technically say that we're not going to look too detailed into the numbers, but I can make some generalized conclusions. So Apple does say that the milliamp hours on an iPhone 13 mini is 2,438 milliamp hours, which I'm pretty sure isn't exactly accurate, but we'll just say it's accurate for now. 2,438 milliamp hours, and then we got 3 3/4 of a cycle, so times 3.75, which equals 9,142.5 milliamp hours on this Llano battery bank. So given the fact that my phone is technically a couple years old, we can roughly assume that the battery bank in this device is around the ballpark of 9,000. So don't be too surprised again, because as I mentioned, a lot of times these battery banks are never as accurate as what they advertise them to be. So you're gonna see this in pretty much every single battery bank you buy out there. Okay, so aside from that, how well does it perform with actual camera batteries? Because that is the whole point of this device, right? Okay, so oh my god, why did I set this up so low? Okay, so I just came back from a shoot, and I have 2 fully depleted LP-E6N batteries. So let's see how long it takes to charge these guys up using the Llano TurboCell charger. Okay, so it is late into the night and this finally completed its charge. So apparently it took 95% of the internal batteries here in order to charge the 2 LP-E6N batteries, the 2 Canon camera batteries. So it took about 2 hours and something, I can't remember exactly, I gotta double check the numbers again, 2-ish hours to charge both batteries up. The surprising thing though is that these LP-E6N batteries are only 1,865 milliamp hours. So there's 2 of them, which means that it's about 3,600 milliamp hours, give or take. These batteries are also not new. The thing is, it doesn't really add up with the results I got with the iPhone test. So it just goes to show that, you know, these battery numbers, these battery tests, it's hard to really be accurate with them. There's too many variables involved, and I don't know, it is what it is. So I honestly do think that this is a very useful device. It's not without its flaws though, okay? First of all, let's address the elephant in the room, and I'm sure that you guys have probably noticed it by now, and it's something that I personally have refrained from talking about in this video until now, and that is its size. This thing is pretty darn massive. This was my genuine reaction when I first unboxed this a few weeks ago. Holy crap, it's massive. Jeez, it's like the size of a camera. Yeah, this is a chunky boy right here. But I also understand why that's the case, because of course it houses 2 Canon batteries, right? And if we look at these batteries, they're not particularly big, but if we have 2 of them stacked up together like this, you can see that there's really not a lot of room left in here for the internal batteries. It's just like really just this side over here, right? And the electronics on the inside. So again, it's understandable why it has to be this big. But the unfortunate truth is that it is this big, which basically limits the use case scenario for this battery charger. Like for example, if you are somebody who's looking at this as sort of like the all-in-one, all-purpose battery charger for all of your devices, well, I wouldn't really recommend it because again, it's so big, right? So if you're out and you're traveling, and you know, for myself, when I'm traveling, I don't really want to carry a lot of gear. Usually it's just like action cameras and small point and shoots, maybe just my phone. You know, having this with me, I can't fit this in a small backpack. I can't fit this in my body pouch. I can't fit this in my pocket. Also, if you're somebody who does a lot of shorter shoots, like sometimes I have these photo shoot sessions that are only like 2 or 3 hours. And in that case, I have 4 LP-E6N and 3 LP-E6N batteries, 1 LP-E6NH batteries, basically 4 Canon batteries. And I know that 2 of these batteries will last me around 2-ish to 3 hours. So on a short shoot that's like 3 hours, I know that 4 batteries is more than sufficient. So having this is kind of unnecessary. But the niche market for this, where this really excels, is if you're somebody who does a lot of really long shoots, right? Like for example, if you're somebody that does wedding filmmaking, right? In the morning, you have to, you know, be there to film the bride and groom get ready, and then you have the ceremony, and then later in the night you have the reception, and you're basically there working for the entire day. Oftentimes for myself, I usually have to look for some kind of a wall somewhere with a plug so I can plug my wall charger in. First of all, I can only charge 1 battery at a time, and also it's just in some public space, in some hallway where people can just walk by and grab my batteries if they want, right? Having something like this is amazing because this can just live inside my camera bag. You can charge 2 batteries at the same time, and I know that this will be in a safe place. Another use case is, for example, if you're somebody who does traveling photography, or if you're an adventure filmmaker or a documentary filmmaker, oftentimes I'm sure you're gonna be out and about in the middle of nowhere. This is where this guy is going to be the most valuable thing in your kit. And honestly, I feel like if you're somebody that's doing a lot of long shoots, you're going to be bringing a lot of gear with you anyway, so I'm sure you can find a way to slot this in your camera bag somewhere and it's not going to be a burden. Okay, what else? So there's 2 other things that I do want to talk about. These are small, nitpicky things that aren't really deal breakers, but I do want to mention them. So first off is this tab to open the battery door isn't the most, it's not the best, smoothest opening experience. You kind of really have to dig your nail in there. You have to dig your finger in there and kind of pry it open a little bit. And the last thing I want to talk about isn't really even a complaint to this device in itself. It's a lot of these products in general. This is kind of like, treat this as like a little PSA for all manufacturers out there. So if you are a product manufacturer and you somehow miraculously stumbled upon this video, what I want to say is that, well, first of all, hello. Welcome, my name is Somebody, pleasure to have you. But also, please stop using this fake rubberized texture on your plastic surfaces, okay? You know what I'm talking about? Like, it's not like a real soft touch layer of rubber. It's like literally that spray-on coating that they use on plastic surfaces. Please stop using that, okay? I get it. It looks really nice in the beginning when you first unbox it, the first few months, the first year or so. It's very premium looking. It feels great. It adds some grip, which is fantastic. The thing is, after a while of using this, you'll notice that areas where you touch most often is gonna get smoothened out. And you're gonna have random patches of like rubber and some that's smooth, and it's just gonna look horrible. But I think the worst part of all is if you don't use this for a while, let's say you put this in a drawer on a shelf and you don't use it for a year or so, once you bring it back out of inactivity, this coating is gonna deteriorate. It's gonna turn oily, it's gonna turn sticky, and honestly, it's one of the most horrible things that mankind has ever invented. If you guys have products like this in the past, I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. But yeah, feel free to treat this as like a PSA for all manufacturers out there. Please stop using this, okay? So those are my thoughts on the Llano TurboCell battery charger. I honestly think that this is one of those products that, you know, we feel that we don't need, but it's not until we actually need it. That's when we're like, oh my God, thank God I have this. It saved my shoot. It's kind of like one of those products. But anyways, if you guys agree with me, perfect. Let me know why in the comments below. If you guys disagree with me, that's okay as well. Also, let me know why in the comments below. Anyways, bye.